Hello and welcome to the 76th gathering of the Adventure Party on this, the 4th of June, 2017. I'm your party leader, Brad Ludwig. We ask that you peace tie your swords, holster your blasters, and make sure you have your minions in line and your monsters chained up while you are gathered at the meeting table. We have a return guest, and that guest is Keith Matejka.
Hello.
And we spoke about Minions and Monsters in our Kickstarter Spotlight last week. And it was very apropos to have you join us and give us some more insight into the expansion of Minions and Monsters and find out more about, the things that you're working on next. So,
Great.
So welcome, Keith Matejka.
Thank you, guys.
And second in command here, as always, is that guy, Glenn Bittner. He's a movie reviewer with his YouTube show, The B-Movie Bunker, and he also created a little RPG called Mist Runner. How you doing this evening?
I'm super. Thanks for asking.
Sounds like you might have had some NyQuil before the show.
Or some scotch.
See, there you go. There you
and
go.
Not sharing.
That's the working man's NyQuil, right? On that note, hey, you've got a review for us, and it's from Blue Orange Games. That's
yes.
One of my favorite names for a game company.
Yes.
Tell us more.
So, I have Spiel des Jahres nominee, King Domino. This is a 2 to 4 player game brought to us by Bruno Cathala, who I've talked about a few of his other games on here before, namely Abyss and 5 Tribes.
Yep.
This is 15 to 20 minute gameplay, roughly, and retails for about $20. The basic gist of the game in King Domino is you're a lord seeking new lands in which to expand your kingdom. You must explore all lands, wheat fields, lakes, mountains, and mines in order to spot the best plots. But be careful, as other lords also covet these lands. So, how gameplay works is each player starts with a little castle on a tile. And each round, depending on how many players you have, so for example, in a 4-player game, you're going to draw 4 of these tiles out. They're basically kind of like dominoes, but they're just big cardboard tiles. The game plays a bit like dominoes, and you're trying to match up these tiles. So you have these tiles up, and they have numbers on them, which the lower the number, the basically less useful or less points the tile's worth at the end of the game. Higher number means it's generally a better tile. These tiles then, once you have your, say, 4 out, you then reveal them, and going in player order, players may pick which tile they want for that turn by placing their little king pawn on the tile. The thing is that whatever tile you pick, so we have the 4 tiles out. If I pick the best tile, I'm the first player, I pick the best one, then I go last next turn.
Oh.
So it's kind of this balance of do you want that tile really badly, or do you want to kind of go in the middle, or maybe take, can I use that worst one? Because then I get to pick first next time. So it's this balance of when you pick and stuff like that. And then you take these tiles and you add them to your kingdom. Most of the tiles, they're like a double-sized tile, so they can fit in different ways. And you have to matching up at least one side of the tile has to match terrain to somewhere else on your board. Your castle itself counts as a wild spot, so it can match anything. But if I draw a tile that's all water, and I can only put it next to something that's just like forest or wheat field, I can't play it because it has to match at least one part of the tiles to match. So if it's water in a forest, I can place that next to an all forest. That's fine. Then how you score points is that there are crowns on some of the tiles. A crown is a multiplier for that type of terrain. So if I have a water tile that has a crown on it, now any water touching that, I get to multiply by the number of crowns. So if I have 4 tiles with 1 crown, 4 water tiles with 1 crown, it's 4 points. But if I have 4 water tiles with 3 crowns, that's 12 points. Any terrain that has no crowns is worth 0 points at the end of the game. You are also confined to a 5x5 space. You can't build outside of that. And you can get bonus points if you make your kingdom a perfect 5x5 square, which means you have to plan ahead while you're doing all of your purchasing of tiles each round, because you don't want to leave yourself all of a sudden it's like, oh great, now I can't finish my thing, because if you get that 5x5 grid, that is, I believe that's a 10-point bonus.
Oh.
If you have your castle, if it's directly in the center of your kingdom, that's 5 more bonus points. It doesn't have to be, but if it is, you get more bonus points. And figure most games I've played, first place is usually in around 40 to 50 points. So getting that 10 or 15 bonus points is huge.
Sure.
If you can manage it. That's actually, I taught my staff how to play this game today, and I won over someone simply because they weren't able to make a perfect 5x5. They had one space left over. They had a spot where they couldn't play a final tile, so they couldn't finish their kingdom. So they had 10 fewer points than they would have. So there's and it's hard to plan ahead because you don't know what tiles are coming up next. So sometimes you just, like for him, he just got stuck with luck of the draw. So it's that planning ahead too, is that second to last turn, you probably want to pick a less good tile so that you get an earlier pick in the final round, so you're not stuck with something you can't use.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah, the game, the name, it's a bad name choice. Just, I mean, it's obviously it's a combination of kingdom and domino, but the problem is that you have the word domino in there, which some people just think it's dominoes, and they don't want to give it a try, even though it's really not. I mean, yes, you've got, basically these double-sided like you would a domino, but it's more like a Carcassonne. It's more of a tile game than it is a domino game. But King Tile is an even dumber name. So,
or King Cassone.
Yeah, King Cassone.
Can you place a tile on top of another tile in this game?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
So they all have to lay flat, and you can orient them however you want as long as you're within that 5x5 grid. But yeah, it's you can't replace tiles. You can only discard tiles that you can't play, right. And then you're not getting those bonus points at the end. So
sure.
I have always managed to get mine into the 5x5 grid, but every game I've played there's been at least one player who didn't. Like today it was simply because the guy, he just couldn't play that last tile because he picked second last. In another game it was simply because the person they did a boneheaded play and they offset a tile when they shouldn't have, and then let themselves with a one space gap when the tile itself is 2, so they couldn't fit anything in there because they just played their tiles poorly. So it does require some thinking ahead and some planning while you're doing this, because sometimes that's a lot of points on that one tile, but I've got nowhere good to put it without cutting off other stuff.
Yep.
And then sometimes you're setting yourself up. It's like, oh, I'm building up all this wheat field, but you got no crowns for it. You're like, all right, I just need to get a crown. And then finally that crown pops up on a wheat field. You're like, awesome, but I'm picking third. And you end up with a space that's nine tiles big, or 9 spaces big, with no crowns. So you've wasted over a third of your entire board on no points.
Yeah.
Do you see? It looks like there's a lot of kind of patchwork in this game.
A little bit, yeah. It's got a little bit of a patchwork feel to it as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't played this one. I'd like to try it.
I should have thought that while you were at the store. I have a demo copy.
Oh, yeah.
So, like you said, it's about 15 to 20 minutes to play, and it retails for how much again?
$20.
There's 4 players?
2 to 4 players, yeah. Yeah, we did 4 players this morning, teaching 3 people who've never played before. It took us 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's an incredible deal, too.
That's like a good lunch hour game, I would think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
And I'm assuming it's a smaller box that it's in, too?
Yeah, it is. It's I mean, not pocket size, but small enough that it'll easily fit into a backpack or something like that.
Sure.
And the tiles are nice and thick. They're like, I mean,
yeah,
like
looking at
Carcassonne tile thickness, but they're double the size. So yeah, they're nice sturdy tiles. They're not going to wear out on you.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I noticed looking at these pictures from BoardGameGeek.com that we always use to kind of show, especially our YouTube listeners, what the game looks like. So, yeah, that's the first thing that I noticed is the thickness of that card stock, and yeah, this game is going to last a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, I was reading one discussion on it, and one person said, "Well, yeah, but I mean, what's the replayability like? You know, you memorize all the tiles." I'm like, dude, there's like 50 tiles. If you can memorize all 50 tiles and then count those tiles out, I mean, why are you wasting your time playing a board game? You should be in Vegas.
Yeah, I was going to say,
everything.
Go to Vegas.
Like, yeah, you couldn't memorize them all, Rain Man, but I mean, come on. That's not really a feasible thing for 95% of the people.
No, not at all. All right. That is an excellent game, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
We wanted to talk briefly about Die Hard Dice, and former guest Todd Tiemann, and he's teamed up with us, which is really kind of cool. You guys who are listening or watching on YouTube, if you go to dieharddice.com and check out their stuff, they have metal dice, and they've got, plastic polyhedral dice, clear, and it's like the pearlescent kind of look to the dice. All beautiful stuff, but he has just launched his aluminum, his milled line of dice, and these are a thing of beauty. And if you go to the site, which is dieharddice.com, and if you order anything on this site and use the coupon code Adventure Party, and this is all one word, Adventure Party, you get an additional 10% off of your order.
Nice.
So, yeah, and they're good quality dice. We've had, like I said, we've had Todd on here before. He started out with metal dice. He got into the plastic polyhedral, and now he's doing his own line of milled aluminum dice. So he's really trying to expand out. And what's really cool about his stuff is it's incredibly affordable. I'm almost feel guilty, giving you an additional 10% off for the dice, because his milled aluminum dice go for about $60 for a full set. And that's, your D20, your 2D10s, the whole set. And there are some websites that for the full polyhedral set for gaming, about $120. So this is an amazing deal that you would get. So again, go to dieharddice.com and you can use the coupon code when you check out, Adventure Party, all one word, and get that additional discount on your order.
Where's Todd from? You know?
Oh, shoot. He's from Utah.
Okay. I was wondering if he was a Wisconsin guy.
No, he is not. But his shipping is like, you get like 3-day shipping. I mean, it's ridiculous how quickly you get stuff.
Nice.
And I can't guarantee this, but everybody that I've talked to that has used the Adventure Party discount code has gotten a free set of dice along with their order.
What?
Yeah. My girlfriend ordered a green translucent polyhedral set and ended up getting 2 free sets. Or no, she got 2. Oh, God. Now I'd have to ask her. I think she got 2 additional sets or 2 metal dice. I can't remember. I think she got 2 extra sets. I'd have to ask her. But I ordered a set of 6 polyhedral dice for $18 for 6 sets. And I got an additional set with it. So 7 sets for $18 and shipping minus the 10%. It was ridiculously affordable. So if you're looking for a new set of dice, whatever that might be, metal, plastic, check them out, dieharddice.com. All right, we're going to do some quick news. And Asmodee has partnered up with Obsidian Entertainment to bring Pathfinder Adventures to Steam. Now, the main reason why I picked up on this is I've been, we were talking about this before the show. I am now sucked in. I've moved away from Fallout 4 so my girlfriend could actually, use the TV and actually play Minecraft. So now I've moved on to the Nerdatorium here where I do the show, and now I'm playing Shadowrun Hong Kong. And I ordered it through Steam. So I bought a number of games through Steam, and I love Steam very much. And it's cool to see that we're going to see some Pathfinder stuff coming to Steam here. But here's the rest of the story. Asmodee Digital, leaders in the digital board game let's start over. Asmodee Digital, leaders in digital board game entertainment, today announced a partnership with the role-playing game experts at Obsidian Entertainment to bring Pathfinder Adventures to Steam on June 15th. Under the deal, Asmodee Digital will publish the award-winning card-based RPG on Steam worldwide, plus the previously released mobile game on the App Store and Google Play. The quote here is, "We're thrilled to be working with the storytelling pros at Obsidian to bring this award-winning RPG to new audiences on the Steam platform. Combining Obsidian's role-playing game experience with our specialty in digital board games, we will make for a strong player experience that does the Pathfinder brand justice. Pathfinder Adventures is a game close to our hearts that allows us to bring the tabletop game to life on Steam. We're excited to share our love of the strategy, teamwork, and chance in Pathfinder to a new audience, and our partnership with Asmodee Digital is vital in connecting with gamers the world over." So there you go. We're going to see some more cool stuff coming through Steam for folks who enjoy playing in the world of Pathfinder.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obsidian did that board game version of their Pillars of Eternity game. So they actually have, one foot in the board game world as well before all this stuff. So it's kind of interesting to see that company move more and more into the board game world.
Yeah, it's Glenn, what's your perspective on that?
On which one?
So Obsidian Entertainment, the guys, they did Fallout New Vegas, and they're working on this Pathfinder stuff. They also did Pillars of Eternity, the CRPG, and they worked with some guys to do like a board game or a card game version of that game as well. That was released in 2016. It's kind of interesting to see a board game. There was a handful of these video games that they did board games of. They've got that one. There was the Witcher one that came out.
You got Doom. You just had Dark Souls.
Right. It's kind of interesting to see it go in that direction. I guess I'm always I guess it sometimes goes in either direction. But.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why they're doing it in some ways, because the development cost for a board game, while it is large, is nothing compared to the development of a video game.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is looking at some of the success of games. I mean, it depends on the game too, but I mean, look at the success of some games. You look at the success of games like Magic, or some of the cool mini like Zombicide games and stuff like that. How they do perform on Kickstarter. These companies can go, well, we can take an existing thing that people already know about, throw $50,000 at it or $100,000 at it, raise 10 times that on a Kickstarter, and sell this product off. And they're doing something that the fans. I mean, part of it might be just it's the fans want it,
right?
But I think also it's in their realm, it's just a quick little thing they can do for some money that takes a lot less work than making a full on computer game.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, working with an established IP, you've got a built-in audience, right? So
yeah,
there's a lot of advantages to that. And in the past, sometimes, IPs moving from genre to genre are not particularly dealt with very well. Sometimes they're kind of seen as cash grabs, but I think that's changing. I think.
Hey, I personally love my Smurfs power tools.
I heard that about you.
Yeah.
But I like, the Doom game is good. I think, I think there's opportunities of getting good designers working on licensed properties, both in board games into video games and video games into board games. I think the adage of like, if it's a licensed thing, it's going to be garbage. I don't think that's always true anymore, which I think is a cool sign.
Yeah.
Tangent over.
All right. Well, there you have it. Pathfinder coming to Steam very soon. Like, oh God, in 11 days.
Yeah, that's pretty soon.
Yeah.
Coming pretty soon.
All right. Hey, if you've liked what you've heard on this particular Galactic Network podcast, perhaps you'd consider joining our Patreon community. We use our listeners' contributions for our web and audio hosting, and we aren't out to make money. You don't really have to give anything, but if you think we're worth it, please, by all means, contribute $1 or $2 each month. By subscribing and listening, that's good enough support. But if you want to go the extra mile, please pledge. You can also click on our Amazon affiliate link to make a purchase, and we get a very small percentage from that sale. Now, you can always go to gncasts.com/support to get more information. Now, the Kickstarter Spotlight. Last week, as I mentioned, we talked about the Monsters and Minions expansion, which you, Keith Matejka, are the creator of.
Yeah, that's my project, man. Well, thanks for featuring it. Yeah, it's doing great on Kickstarter. It's like I was telling Glenn earlier today. I mean, Role Player, the base game is doing great. I'm just finished. The third print run is about to hit stores, and the Kickstarter for the expansion is it kind of hit at a great time in which there's a lot of demand for the product. This is like an expansion that a lot of fans of the game have kind of been asking for. It adds a lot of the features that people have asked for, kind of variety throughout, but also there's some big bullet points. There's like the 5th player. You get to fight something with your character at the end of the game.
Nice.
And I just received a couple award nominations from the Dice Tower for best game for a small publisher and best thematic game. So
that's cool. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of eyes on the game, and it's been out of print for a couple times now. So, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I think obviously it's good to sell through product, but there's been a lot of people that have had a hard time finding it between print runs, which has been, it's kept the game kind of in the forefront of people's minds because it's something they want, but they haven't been able to get a hold of. But also, it breaks my heart to see gamers who want to play my game and can't find it. So,
yeah.
So yeah, there's more copies coming, and the expansion is doing great, knocking down stretch goals. I mean, it's more successful than I ever imagined. So, yeah.
And that demand is definitely there because your original goal was 65,000.
Right.
And you are currently, as of right now, this moment in time, you're at 236,750.
Yeah.
Over 3,000 backers.
That's a big number.
That's huge. That is huge.
Yeah. It's exciting.
I can't even imagine being on cloud 9 as you must be right now. You're on your 3rd print run, as you said.
Right.
You've come out with an expansion, and there's such a clamoring for not only just the reprint, but for the expansion that you've, well over doubled, tripled, your goal.
Yeah.
To make that happen. So congratulations to you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of with great success, oftentimes comes a lot of responsibility too. And
Yeah.
that means I've got 3,000 plus backers that are, have put their faith in me and are trusting me to deliver this product and trusting to make sure it's good. And, has this kind of own stress level. Obviously I've delivered Kickstarters in the past, so I kind of know what I'm doing. But this is to a whole nother level. So I've kind of, in the past, I've done everything on my own. So I've started to kind of recruit some help from some other experienced Kickstarter creators. So.
Oh, that's great.
And there's a handful. Glenn and I were talking about this today. There's a bunch of designers in Madison where I live, and a few of them have done quite a handful of Kickstarters. So they know the drill, and I'm trying to leverage some of the guys that are more experienced or more knowledgeable or have more passion about certain parts of the process than I do.
Sure.
So Kirk Dennison over at his company is called Peacekeeper Games. He did a game called Flag Dash on Kickstarter, and which eventually got licensed by Ultra Pro. It was kind of the talk of the con at BGG Con last year. It's kind of like a little, it's Capture the Flag, the board game, basically. With the programming element like Robo Rally.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, and so he's been helping me out. He's like a big numbers guy. I mean, I do okay with the numbers, but he has like a real passion for like squeezing every dime and manipulating all the numbers to make sure we get everything where it needs to be. And he's big on like figuring out, Facebook ads and making sure we're targeting the right people and all that stuff that I find a bit of a headache, and he's all about it. So it's been a good partnership on this particular project.
No, that's awesome. So for everybody that's interested in getting, because Monsters and Minions here is just the expansion. If you actually want to play this, you need to get Role Player. So if you hop on at the $89 pledge level, you get the base game, Role Player, and then you get the expansion of Monsters and Minions.
Yeah, and that's if you want. They're going to be shipped together.
Oh, cool. Yep.
But if you want, which is cool but not cool. It's like if the expansion isn't going to come out till the beginning of next year, then you're kind of waiting a long time for both boxes to show up. So
sure.
There's an option there for at least for U.S. backers to get the base game in July when the next print run hits, and then get the expansion later. And all those copies I'm kind of mailing myself. So I'm giving people the opportunity to get I'm happy to sign their box for them if they want, because I'm doing the mailing myself on those. But
sweet.
Yeah, that's been kind of a tricky thing. It's like communicating, like, hey, the base game is coming, and you can order it with the expansion, but you're going to get them both at the same time, and it's going to be later. Or you can just kind of assume that you'll be able to get the base game, through normal distribution, and then just pledge to the expansion.
Okay, and the expansion alone, is $39.
Yeah.
To get on board with that, so that is exceptionally cool. And it looks like, go ahead.
I just say there's been lots of stretch goals unlocked, adding lots of content, kind of adding lots of variety. I mean, there's a part in the game, right when you start playing, and you get dealt out like a backstory and an alignment and a class, and you get your race board, and it's set up to be kind of this mix and match system where you can have any combination of these cards, and you put them on your board, and then you're trying to piece together in your mind who this character is going to be. It's like this neurotic hunter who's a monk that is also a dwarf, and trying to kind of put those together in your head. And one of the things that's nice about kind of the stretch goals that I've been able to unlock is that I'm adding a lot more variety to those. So before it was very rare that you would have the same combination of pieces, but now it's even more variety there. So that's cool. And I've been, for the backstories in the game, which are you get these cards, and there's a mechanical part of it, but then there's kind of a fluff text part of it that gives you a backstory part of your character. And I've been, I basically solicited ideas from the backers. So there's been 12 additional backstory cards, and all those ideas are coming from the backers that are part of the Kickstarter project. So nice. I've been trying to create, community events, and trying to create some involvement between my backers and me, the project lead. So
yeah, and that's the way to do it. I mean, you know, you've had success with a few games here, but to have that kind of relationship with, the people that are interested in your stuff, that you kind of get the feeling as the person buying the game that you're part of something that is bigger, that you actually can bend your ear, give you ideas, or talk to you about stuff, and they get the feeling that they're going to get a reply back.
I mean, the back and forth between backer and creator is kind of what I think doing Kickstarter is like you make a real connection with those people. And in this specific instance, like people are making content that is going directly into the game, so they're getting a chance to put their thumb on the game, and they can, when they finally get it, they can show it to their friend and be like, "Hey, I wrote this," So that's cool. I don't know. I think it is.
No, it is very much so, and it's one of the things that that makes it unique,
right?
And highly sought after, as you well know. So that is really cool that you're on your third print. I mean, that says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of board games that do one print and they're one and done, especially Kickstarter projects.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's. I mean, I guess it's officially a success at this point. So
you've got staying power, my friend.
For now, yeah.
That's really amazing.
Yeah, thanks. And there's a lot of games on Kickstarter. I'm sure you guys know. There's a lot of games on Kickstarter that either just aren't that great, that end up doing okay on Kickstarter and printing, and then they just sit there, or that they once they're out to backers or even customers after the fact, if they go into retail, it's like the quality of this game is not that good. Like there's clearly that didn't go through the right development phases and the right playtesting phases to make sure off edges were kind of sanded down. But I think that kind of gives people who do come to the platform with like a legitimately polished game, a bit of an uphill struggle to, convince people, hey, this is not just another kind of garbage Kickstarter game. This is good. I swear.
Well, the nice thing is if people come to Kickstarter and they check out your role player Monsters and Minions expansion, they can also click on your name and find out more about what you've done and the other Kickstarters that you've had that have been successful as well. So they know that you're not just kind of fly by night.
And especially like people who, if you find creators that haven't ever backed a project, like they clearly aren't going to really understand how Kickstarter works and the expectations of the backers, or it's its own kind of little subculture that I think you have to participate in that to really understand it. And I think if you have a creator that's never done that, I'm not sure if you're going to be happy with the end results of the campaign. Sure.
And you are EU and Australia shipping friendly, which...
Yeah. I mean, the fulfillment company that I'm currently planning on using, that they have warehouses in those countries, so they can ship to those people directly from there, and they won't get hit with VAT, taxes, because a lot of people if I end up mailing from the U.S. and it's a certain value and it hits some dude in England, the mailman's going to come and say, "Yo, you owe me $25." So we try to reduce that for people so that we pay, we being me, I guess, pay for that charge going into the country, and then once it's in the country, they get sent out to the backers, and then they don't have to pay that charge. So, yeah, we're working on trying to find some additional ways to get kind of tax-free delivery, like maybe Canada or some of the other ones. But
oh, sure.
Right now, we're just kind of locked into Europe and Australia and the U.S., of course, because us Americans don't pay that kind of tax. So it's nice. I remember going to the UK for the first time and paying VAT on something. I was like, "What's this? And why are you charging me?" But it's just, that's just what something I just wasn't used to. But that's part of life in many countries.
No, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, 10 days to go, and you're kicking ass, my friend. That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Our Kickstarter spotlight for this week, though, shines on something that Glenn found, and as soon as I clicked it and looked at it, I went, "Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's a blast from the past."
yeah, for us oldies,
Back in my day,
Torg
Yep.
Eternity. Those of you who were never RPG players or just aren't old enough, Torg was a role-playing game originally made by West End Games.
Yeah.
Torg is about there are these. It's like the possibility wars where Earth is invaded by these other basically possibilities. They're here to steal all of our basically life's energy and all of life's possibilities. But of course, we're humans and we're like, screw that shit, and we fight back. But all of these invasions cause weird things to happen. Like a big part of the U.S. becomes the Living Land, which is like a prehistoric thing where technology doesn't work and there's dinosaurs. And like over in part of Europe, you have like around England area, you have Isle, which is like fantasy, and you have the cyber papacy, and you have Aurora in like the New Zealand, Australia area, which is like all horror, like gothic horror and all these different realities. Then Egypt is basically like pulp, like 1920s pulp stuff going on. It was just this great mishmash of settings, and they're bringing it back. And they were looking for $8,000, which is a really, really modest goal. And they funded in 8 minutes. Yeah, they funded in under 8 minutes. They're at 198,000, so not quite to Keith's level yet. But with 1,200 backers, I mean, I loved I only ever played the game like twice, but I owned I don't know how many of the books because it was just fascinating to read and just fascinating to steal and take stuff for other games in this. You can get in on it for a digital copy at $30. That gets you the rule book, the drama deck, because Torg used a special deck of cards called the drama deck, and you could actually use these things to give yourself boost. But when you use these cards, then the GM can use cards against you. So it's this kind of balance. I really need to do this. I'm going to use this, and it might come back to bite you in the ass later because the GM, as soon as you unlock that door, the GM can start throwing stuff back through that door at you. $50, you get the deluxe digital version, which is the rule book, the drama deck, character archetypes, status, shock, and wound counters. All of the original Torg books in PDF, plus all the digital stretch goals. If you want to get a print copy, you got to drop $70. That gets you the Torg Eternity hardcover rule book and the PDF. It gets you a dice pack. It gets you PDF of the status print and PDF of the status, shock, and wound counters. It gets you PDFs of all the original Torg books again, and all the digital stretch goals. And this keeps going up 120, 200. The $1,000 level, unfortunately, is all gone. Sorry, people. But
there were 10 open slots for the $1,000 level, and they're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how much of a big deal.
Game, right?
What's that?
Did that got your face in the game? Is that what that level did?
That one, yeah. You're made as a member of the Delphi Council in the world of Torg Eternity. You get the core rulebook, the red leather limited edition, the cargo box, which was their one level before that, which got you all the premium stuff and like the GM screen and the rulebook and all this other stuff.
And you get a seat at the Gen Con running. Of the game of Torg.
Or you can come to my store on June 17th for Free RPG Day, where my friend Dominic is running the Torg Eternity for Free RPG Day.
Nice.
Yeah, so of course I would love to play it, but I can't because I'm running something opposite him. But
do you have a sense of like how much rework they're doing and how much they're kind of keeping it as the original, and who's doing the rework?
The rework it's Ulysses, I think is the name of the company. They did another game. I think we've talked about Fading Suns. Yeah, Fading Suns. So they did that as well. Some of the new stuff that they're bringing. So the spirit, the setting, and the rules, a lot of it's staying the same, but they have added a few things where they've added perks for buying and balancing all the different character abilities. So characters that come from Core Earth are getting some unique perks. You get Tharcold, which was one that got added on really late. It's one of the settings that's added in immediately, so it's right away. You get everything right away. They simplified the damage, which was kind of an annoying thing back in the day. Was their damage chart. So they fixed that. So they streamlined a bit of the rules, but a lot of it they're staying true to the original as far as the setting, which to me is the most important thing. I mean, I can work around some faulty rules if I have a great setting because I can just make my own rules, but that's me. But yeah, it's just it's so super cool. And yeah, I mean the PDFs is the thing that's probably going to get me to back it, is getting PDFs of all the original books, because you would be getting the Delphi Council World Book Volume 1, the Living Lens, you'd get the Nile Empire, you get Cyber Papacy, you get Isle, Nippon Tech, Aurosh, Tharcold, I think it's the Katana Weapons book. You get, there's how many? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like 60 books practically, or 50 books that you're getting in PDF form in addition from all the original Torrid stuff. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you're getting for all of this.
Yeah, the $120 level, which is the the print Game Master Edition, that gets you prints and PDFs of the drama deck, the GM screen, the rule book, but then you get the PDFs of all the original Torg books, which alone is $130 in value. So, wow.
Yep.
I never played Torg, but I always wanted to, because the whole idea of just all this stuff kind of, shoved together, it seemed really cool.
Or it was, I should say, because I mean it's been out of print for quite a while. But
this is funny because this is we talked about another former West End game not too long ago. Shoot, and I can't recall what it was now. But it looks like some of their stuff has been bought up and it's being redone by other companies, which is cool, because a lot of this stuff, like you said, for us folks that gamed in the 80s and 90s, some of this stuff, I mean, you're hard pressed to find a copy of Justifiers. Some of those older games where the companies, they've folded, or they've done away with games. So it's cool to see this kind of resurgence, and I think Kickstarters too is the instigator for a lot of that.
Yeah,
which is cool. Which means a lot of the games that we enjoyed, that either we sold off when we were in college, or after we got out of college, whatever, you get the opportunity to get it back. So
yeah, I mean, Kickstarter basically allows people to say, "Hey, I want to bring Torg back," and people say, "Nobody's going to buy that. What are you talking about?" It's like, well, let's find out how many people are going to buy it. So you throw it up, and guess what? If people are into it, it's going to get funded and it's going to get made. And I think that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's helped, independent publishers like yourself, and it's also helped, older games find new life.
Yeah.
Which is always awesome. 25 days left to go.
Yeah.
On this.
That's a long campaign.
Yeah.
I used to do 3 or 4 to 5 week long campaigns, and one I found it was just kind of unnecessarily long sometimes. I mean, if you do the pre-marketing and you make sure that people know that it's coming, I think you can get away with. I'm doing 3 weeks on the role player expansion. It just kind of takes that lull period in the middle. It's like first couple of days is a big spike, last couple of days is a big spike, and then there's this long kind of lull in the middle, and you're just fighting to find backers the whole time. And honestly, just cutting out a section of the downtime in the middle, you know, I believe that you make that up on the two ends, during the two moments, areas of excitement. Maybe something like this that would they can use that time to get the word out about the product if they didn't do a ton of pre-marketing. Maybe that's a good idea.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about that sense of urgency. You know, that's what it creates. Because if you let something go for, you know, a month and a half, there's that incredible lull, and people are like, I got time, and then they don't come back to it.
It also kind of gives people a chance to think about it again and be like, do I really need this? Maybe I'll cancel my pledge. I think that happens maybe a little bit more too.
Yeah, I could see that. So Torg is coming back. So now I gotta think about, man, do I try to dig up $120 and go whole hog on this? I don't know. I have to seriously think about that. I'm gonna click the remind me on that. And
there you go. Yeah, that's a big deal. That remind me button.
Yeah. Yep, that's kicked me in the pants a couple of times where it's like, oh yeah, that's right, I wanted that thing. Click.
Right.
So yeah, it saved me. Well, speaking of your game, let's talk a bit about Rollmaster and, Rollmaster. Now I've got another game system on my mind. Role player, and you know, this is your third printing.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's picked up maybe even more buzz than before. It's like I think that maybe enough people have wanted it, haven't been able to get their hands on it, and they're desperately looking for it. And now that you put it out there again, they're like, oh my God. Right. Do you feel that was an expected thing? Because I mean, like 3 hours and you were set. It was done.
Yeah, I mean, I think that role players is kind of a weird game. You know, it's like there's dice manipulation games out there, but I think role play is one of those games that until you play it, it's hard for people to kind of understand why it's fun. You know, I've gotten that comment, quite a few times. Like, it's a game about making a character. Why is that fun? It's like the most boring part about playing RPGs. It's like, just play it, okay? You know, it's cool. Trust me. You know, and I think it was a small press thing. And, you know what? I didn't do it as a ton of marketing for it, and it's kind of grown. There's kind of this homegrown feel about it in terms of there's been some real advocates for the game that have just been really picked it up and ran with it and tried to spread the word about the game, and the scarcity of it, helped, I think, to some degree, as it was something people sought after, and obviously, if somebody wants something and they can't get it, that drives them crazy, right?
It's human nature. Nature. You want the thing that you can't have,
right? And you want it, even more than probably what's reasonable.
Yep.
So. And you see that anytime a game is out of print and it's well regarded, you see the prices skyrocket, and it's like there's more coming. You just have to wait 3 months, but people, will pay for something they want right now, that they find out about. So I think the word has been getting out about the game slowly. The reviews have continued to be good. I was rated as one of the top 5 games of 2016 from some notable board game reviewers. So all that stuff helps, and I hope it continues to grow. So we'll see how long the tail on this one is going to be. There's do you have an evergreen product like Pandemic or a Ticket to Ride or something like that, or that you continue to reprint every year for 5-10 years, or do you do like what's that?
I said, or forever.
Which would be ideal.
Yeah. This is Keith's license to print money, hopefully. God willing.
One of those. That'd be cool. Or is it like one of those things where, after next year, the next big thing comes and nobody cares about my game anymore. I mean, the life cycle of these things can be very short. because there's so many games coming out every year, and a lot of them are really good, and they're all kind of building on the shoulders of each other. You know, it's like, would Role Player be here if Alien Frontiers didn't exist? I don't know, maybe not. You know, or anything else like that. So, yeah, it definitely wouldn't be here if Dungeons and Dragons didn't exist. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's probably one of the biggest appeals about your game is it's accessible, because anybody that's ever played an RPG has made a character.
Right. I mean,
so it's very accessible in that fashion.
Yeah, so it appeals to like the D&D Pathfinder role-playing game fan, I think. And then yeah, I think it also appeals to like the video game RPG fan, you know, the Skyrim, Oblivion
sure.
Fan, or even anything that has a character creator. I mean, character creators in video games is super common. Like if you play a Tiger Woods game, you can spend a long time, you know, adjusting the cheekbone height and the eyelash length of all these characters. And there's some people that really like that process, you know. Either they're trying to recreate themselves, or they're trying to recreate, you know, celebrities, or just trying to make cool people.
Well, you know, and I went through this process talking about computer games, and we were talking earlier about how I was playing Shadowrun Hong Kong, and you have to, you know, you get your karma points, and you have to, you know, lay things out. What kind of character are you going to be? You know, where do you put those points? So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It has a tie to video game versions of RPGs as well.
Right. And I mean, I don't say it's like super highly accessible. It's like, I don't think the person who just owns Ticket to Ride and Pandemic are necessarily going to be jumping out of the seat to grab Role Player. But I think there's a lot of people who play RPGs that also play board games that get a kick out of it. I think a lot of it is just because there hasn't been many games like this before. I mean, the equivalent is a game that came out earlier in 2017 called Sagrada, which does some of the same things that Role Player does, but that is targeted at a more mass market kind of audience, and it's kind of a much lighter game, whereas Role Player is more complex and is more targeted towards, you know, the fantasy D&D fans, and there's a heck of a lot of those fans of D&D and fantasy in this hobby. So, yeah,
one or two.
There's a few of them, right?
A couple tree.
Yeah.
Now with how am I going to phrase this? With monsters and minions. Okay. How we've talked a little bit about this, but what are the key things that really expand upon its playability and replayability?
Sure. So, I mean, replayability is variety across the board. I mean, in the base game, there were 6 races you could play as. Now there's an additional 4. And there's tons of different more alignment cards. There's double the number of classes. Before there was 12 classes. Now there's 24 classes you can play as. So that each of those have their own special ability and their own kind of desired statistics or attributes, as I call them in Role Player. And there's more backstory cards, just kind of adding to the variety in the game. And then there's a new type of die, which it sounds like a small thing, but it's kind of, I think it's interesting. Is that in the Role Player, the base game, there's you had 73 dice in this big dice bag, and they're standard 1 to 6 D6s. But with the expansion, there's 11 of these what I call boost dice, and they're transparent. They're like kind of cloudy and transparent, and they go between 3 and 8 instead of 1 and 6, which seems like a small thing, but it actually really changes the way the game plays, because it makes hitting your goals a little bit easier. But now a lot of times people are fighting to keep their stats low enough instead of like just trying to get their stats high enough, because a lot of times in Role Player you're trying to hit a specific number or a specific 2 numbers on any given stat. So that's kind of fun. I mean, it breaks up the gameplay a good deal. There's you get to fight things in the expansion, which is all new. So instead of buying weapons or armor or training your skills or developing your traits, you can say, I'm gonna go on a hunt. So there might be a goblin out there, and he's available, you can fight him. And if you do that, then you get experience points, as you should in any role-playing game. And then you can spend those experience points to do a lot of other different things. So there's an all-new currency, not just gold like in the base game. Now you've got experience points to collect and use in different ways. And it's all kind of marching towards this big battle at the end. So you've got there's 6 different monsters you can fight, and so at the very end, and each one has like a location and what I call an obstacle, and then the monster's attack. And these are kind of secret information that you can reveal. You can take a look at if you've killed some minions along the way, and that's going to give you an advantage against the big bad monster at the end. And the more damage you do against the big monster at the end, the more points you'll get, and the more points equals maybe you'll win, right? So,
Sure.
all the fighting of the monsters and experience points and the different location and obstacle and attack cards and the monster, that's all new, and that's it's all kind of somewhat seamlessly integrated into the game. A lot of expansions just kind of slap stuff on at the end or whatever, but I wanted to make sure that kind of every step of the way the expansion was integrated, and then there was like every kind of piece of the game, it had a little tweak, to kind of and to amp it up a little bit. So that's why you've got a new die type. There's in the market, there's a new type of market card called a scroll, which are all new. And there's new cards that are in all the other kind of categories. And yeah, it's just a lot of stuff. So I think there's expansions that people do where there's like, here's 6 modules, and you can pick and choose which one you want to use. And that's like something I didn't want to do. I kind of wanted to present a whole picture and be like, either play with this or don't play with this, this, because I think there's a lot of design restrictions when you start building the modular pieces of expansions. Whereas then if you say you have to do this whole thing, then you can interconnect all these things, and you don't have to design with the idea like, hey, part 7 or part 3 might not be there if the person doesn't like that. I can't make these things connect because that part may or may not be there. I wanted to make sure everything was going to be there and everything connected, and it was all well integrated. And that was kind of my design philosophy.
Speaking of integration, with some of the the new bits and some of the new mechanics that you added with the expansion, how was playtesting? Was it really? Did you have a difficult time kind of dovetailing the expansion in and not? Do you know what I'm saying? You're adding extra stuff to it, and how hard was it to? What was the playtesting pretty easy going? Did it did you drop stuff in and it went pretty smoothly, or did you have a lot of things to iron out?
I mean, I just started with a feature list. I made this bullet pointed list of these are all the things that I want to do and prioritize them, and figure out like how would I get all these things working. And then the combat part was the part that I struggled with the most, because role player is a pretty deterministic game, and there's a die roll at the beginning, and you select dice and you manipulate dice, but there's no in the base game. There's no just like, besides I guess the intelligence attribute action, there's no just like straight up re-rolling dice. So I built it with this kind of more deterministic combat system, and in the end, I kind of just felt that if this is trying to be a role-playing style system, when you do combat in role-playing games, 99% of the time you're chucking dice, and I just had a hard time. It just didn't feel like combat to me without being able to roll dice. So and just random like die rolls in general, I'm not a huge fan of. So I kind of had to build all these other systems around it to give players opportunities to mitigate the luck that was involved in the final die roll and the die roll against the minions. So I kind of went down one path, and I was like, this ain't working. So then I had to like start over and start going down this other path. And I think some of the early feedback from like more Euro style gamers who like role player, I think are a little uncomfortable with the die roll, like roll to resolve combat systems.
Sure.
But I tried a bunch of different things, and this is the one that I think works the best. And I feel like I gave people a lot of opportunities to mitigate that risk. So that was definitely one of the wrinkles in my kind of overall playtesting. I had lots of kind of leftover ideas from the base game when I was working on it, so I was able to kind of resurrect those things and polish them up and kind of pick the best that was there. But in terms of just external playtesting, when it was the original role player, just trying to get what they call blind playtesting, where you just mail it to somebody and say, you figure it out, right? There's no designer standing over your shoulder to answer questions or anything like that. And that's a really good opportunity to test the rule book, how well the rule book communicates how to play the game. And it is also a great opportunity to get like real honest feedback. Like your friends and your family and fans of your previous work are not likely to give you the most honest of feedback, right? They're
a little biased probably.
Right, it's a little candy coated, usually like what they call blind play testers, they don't pull punches, which is what you need. You need somebody who's like, dude, this sucks, and you got to change this, or this is my major problem with the game, and which a lot of times, someone telling you to change something is usually there's a root to that. There's like, why are they asking you to change this thing? Oh, it's because they have a problem with this other thing. Let's fix that instead of like making this change that they're specifically requesting, as an example. But I had a lot of, when it came to the playtesting of this one, especially the blind playtesting, there's a lot of fans of the base game, so who want to make sure the expansion is awesome. So I had a lot of people that were asking to test it. They're like, let me know, I want to test it. So that was, appealed to the audience and enthusiasm for it. Whereas when I was doing the original stuff, I was like, hey, I got this game. Does anybody, I'm looking for testers, and it's like crickets, So, so that was easier this time around. And the solo version of the game for the base game was something that I kind of added as an afterthought. I hadn't really worked on it much until the Kickstarter backers were really asking for it. So I designed something quick, and I put it as part of the game, and solo gamers really tend to like it. So this time around, I did a lot of blind, like single player testing, which I didn't do any of last time, and I ended up adding a handful of things specifically for solo players, because there's a lot of single player gamers that really like the game. So I want to make sure I continue to support them.
Sure. Yep. Let's see. What obviously you're very focused on this.
Yeah.
You got 10 days to go, but there's no rest, because next is finishing everything, getting it printed, getting it out to everybody, which is still a long haul that you have to get done. But what other projects are you kind of thinking about now, without giving specifics? But what do you think is next?
I actually have quite a few projects in the pipe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I've got I'm a little bit all over the place. So I've got Role Player, which I designed and I'm publishing. I'm working on designing a game for another publisher, Pencil First Games. I'm working on a 2-player asymmetrical game for those guys. That Eduardo Baref from Pencil First came to me with the idea. He's like, hey, I got this idea. I want you to design it. What do you say? So I was like, okay, sure. So I've been working on that, which is really fun. It reminds me a little bit of, I guess it's basically the whole concept is, if you had Shadows of the Colossus, the video game, where there's a big giant monster, and the other person plays as a kind of band of Lord of the Rings fantasy characters, and they're basically doing battle, and there's a bunch of different big monsters you can play as, and there's a handful of different kind of leaders of the fantasy characters you can play as. So it's going to be cool. It's like short, 25, 35 minutes, a tactical game, card play. It's going to be cool. And I'm not sure when Ed is going to do that one on Kickstarter, maybe in the fall or the spring. He's got a couple projects before that. And so Eduardo Baraf over at Pencil First and I worked on the single-player version of the game he published called Herbaceous, which a designer, Steve Finn, designed Steve is most well known for a game called Biblios, and the game was called Herbaceous. Steve, the designer, wasn't really interested in working on the single player version, and Ed randomly kind of contacted me and said, "Hey, do you want to work on the single player version of this game?" And I didn't have anything specifically to work on, so I was like, "Sure." So I did that, and gamers tend to like that too. So Ed is kind of working on getting the band back together on that. So the art
nice.
for Herbaceous was by Beth Sobel, and people really love the artwork in that game. And Beth does a great job. So we're going to do another game with Steve on the lead designer. I'm going to do the single player version, and Beth is going to do the art, and Ed is going to publish it. So that game's called Sunset Over Water. There's some images on Board Game Geek on it already, but that's kind of another real light card game, kind of targeted towards more casual gamers, and the artwork's beautiful.
Sure. That's got to be great that now that you've had some success, you've got to work with other people, that now your network is sort of, it's growing, and you have that ability to draw from other people. That's got to be nice, and that's got to open up some doors to other ideas that you've had, that maybe somebody that has done that before, and they can kind of help you out with it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the network comment is very true. And there's these smaller publishers like me and Ed at Pencil First, and like I mentioned, Kirk over at Peacekeeper. Like, we're just like one guy's trying to do it all. And when you're working on these things every day for years, especially if you're kind of doing it on your own, it can get tiring. And sometimes you start doubting yourself. Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I, you don't have as many people to lean on. So a lot of us start kind of just building a community amongst ourselves, and you're like, "Hey, Ed, do you know a guy who can do video stuff for me?" Or I got a lot of help from James Hudson over at Druid City Games. He just did Grim Forest on Kickstarter recently, and we ask each other opinions and thoughts and contacts, and it's been really awesome to kind of build up that community and kind of build those contacts. So for sure.
Nice.
I've got a couple other projects. I'm publishing 2 games from other designers. One is from Brett Myers. He's a designer from here in Madison. He did a game called Rome City of Marble. He did a game called The Nook. And he's got another 2-player game that's set in Russia in 1917. It has like it's kind of like a little bit of a deduction. It's kind of like you're trying to sneak around and figure out and kind of decide where different areas are going to score, and you're trying to deduce where the other guy's trying to score, and not give away where you're trying to score. It's like a 45-minute lunch hour game with a historical flair to it. It's going to be cool.
Nice.
I think hopefully kickstart that one in the fall, maybe in the spring. We'll see how long art takes, and then there's actually a designer from Milwaukee.
There's no designers in Milwaukee. What are you talking
about? Like I found him. You might actually know him, Stan. One of your, Glenn, you might actually know him. He, one of your, I think your employees, or one of the guys that I played with today, said they knew him actually. His name is Stan Kordonsky.
I know the name. I don't think I've met Stan in person, but I know of him.
Yeah, he's an up-and-coming designer, really smart guy. And I know he's got some other games that have been signed recently. But I signed a game from him, and he's actually kind of gone back and started to do some rework on it. So that's probably a 2018 project, but I'm excited about working on that one. That one's like a lighter worker placement, like kind of the Stone Age level complexity worker placement game that takes place in a fantasy dungeon where you're managing your prisoners of one of fantasy race. So you've got your orcs, and they're all prisoners in the dungeon, and you're going out and building shivs and trying to increase your influence in the dungeon. So it's kind of a unique theme. I think it's going to be fun.
That sounds very cool. So you got a number of things coming up here, and
yeah,
keeping that.
But and I've got ideas for role player stuff. I mean, role player is doing great. The expansion is doing great. I've got at least kind of two expansion ideas in my head that I'll probably start working on in the fall. Maybe there's one, maybe a smaller thing, and one kind of ginormous thing that I like to do. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, judging by the success that you're having with this, I have a feeling that it's gonna snowball into success with the next thing you do for sure.
I hope so. And one thing I've talked to, and I appreciate that. I've always kind of thought another thing about role players that the core system of it doesn't necessarily have to be fantasy, right? It could be adapted to other genres or other systems. And that's something that I'm always kind of thinking about in the background too, is like, what would a superhero version of role player look like? Or what would a Cthulhu version of role player look like? Or what would
sci-fi
or, so I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, we were talking about Pathfinder earlier, and Starfinder is coming out. So that's why that popped into my head. With
that would be cool.
Glenn, do you have any other questions for Keith before we wrap things up?
No, not really. I think we've covered a lot of stuff. So
yeah, I'm sure Keith's his voice is getting worn out here talking so much.
Well, yeah, I was demoing all day at Glenn's store earlier, so.
Yep. I was gonna say you're probably doing a lot of talking at the store, getting things running there, and now you're talking with us. So I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us, Keith.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. I think we are going to wrap things up here. If you want to chat with us, the hosts and other listeners of this Galactic Network podcast, you can do it 24 hours a day. We can make that claim because we have a person who lives in the UK who does a show, and he is an IT person as well. So why is that important? Well, we use a system called Slack. And Slack is a piece of software that you can run on your computer. We use it in my office. I talk with other web developers and stuff like that. So we use Slack to talk amongst us. But we use Slack to talk with other hosts within Galactic Network shows and also some of our listeners. So you can always sign up to join our Slack team at gncasts.com/signup. And you can join our Slack team and chat with us just about any time. And we're all pretty responsive, so we'll definitely chat back with you. If you want to get more information on this podcast, including show notes, contact info, and more, you can go to gncasts.com/adventure. If you have a question or comment about anything that you've heard on this Galactic Network podcast, you can email contact@gncasts.com, or you can contact the show. I need to change this script. You can contact the show, adventure@gncasts.com. You can leave a voicemail message, or you can text us using this number, 805-328-3966. Again, 805-328-3966, or you can go to gncasts.com/contact. We do read, listen to, and appreciate all of your feedback. If you're going to take the time to talk with us, we'll talk back with you. Absolutely. Please subscribe to this Galactic Network podcast by going to gncasts.com/subscribe. There you can find all of our other shows too that you can subscribe to, like Podcast of Terror, Who Knew and Reviews for Doctor Who fans. We have a number of other shows that we offer. You can search iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play Music. That's where we have our podcasts. And we show up in other places too. Podcast Land. Some of our shows have ended up there too. So we're all over the place. And I also want to thank Central Battery Music Works for our theme music. Mark Woldridge is a wizard with music. I want to thank you again, Keith Matejka, for taking the time to talk with us about your expansion for Role Player, your success, and the future of the next thing that you're going to be working on. So I'm really glad that you could talk with us.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Where can people find out more about you and Thunderworks?
Yeah, so Thunderworks Games is the name of my company. My website is www.thunderworksgames.com. I'm easily just accessible on both Facebook and Twitter. My Twitter is at ThunderworksGam, G-A-M, because I ran out of characters. And I'm available for chatting or messaging anytime. I love talking to my fans, and or even on the Kickstarter page, I answer lots of questions from the folks who want to talk about the game. So it's cool.
No, it's very cool. And we would definitely recommend you guys checking out Role Player and getting on board, because it's a hell of a game.
Thank you.
Glenn?
Yep.
Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm sorry, your camera isn't on. I don't know if you're sleeping right now. I don't know what's happening. I just wanted to make sure you were still there, man.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Now I need cricket sound effects.
Yes.
Right.
To fill in that space.
No, I was getting some drag, which is why my camera went off. So.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Where can you find me, huh?
Yeah, where can people
That's what
find
you're
out
gonna
more
ask?
about you, the B-Movie Bunker, Mist Runner, and anything else that you are working on?
You can find out more about me by checking out the B-Movie Bunker on YouTube and Guy in a Bunker Productions. Same thing on Facebook. Check out guyinabunker.com, Mr.com, or just follow me on Twitter at guyinabunker.
Bam, and there it is.
There it is.
All right, I want to thank everyone so much for joining us here at the Adventure Party. May your characters never die and your adventures always be epic. Thank you and good night.